So I recently did a review on Yeat's new EP. In short, I like that project, and in the description of that review, I said that this EP is better than 95% of what's on Lyfestyle. It is a bold take given that Lyfestyle is an actual album that's over an hour long, and I actually saw a couple comments asking me to listen to this album again. So I've decided I'm gonna give it a redux review, see if my opinion has changed. If it hasn't, I'm just gonna say that it hasn't. It hasn't. What I can appreciate with Lyfestyle is that Yeat did listen to some of his fans who wanted a new project from him that sounded like his older projects, be it Too Alive, Up To Me, even the Life EP. 2093 was kind of this weird left field experimental deviation for Yeat as he really created this blend of industrial and experimental with Rage. That album was a little bloated by itself, but it does stick to a consistent theme. And on Lyfestyle, the only consistent theme I'm getting out of this is a repetitive one. I really don't see how you can compare this to 2093 and put them in the same ballpark. Lyfestyle was a less ambitious, less grandiose, less remarkable album. I feel like he only wanted to put this out to get that #1 spot on the Billboard 200, even if it's just for a week. But it's almost been a year later, and this is probably the least talked about album in Yeat's catalog. Every other Yeat project since then has had at least one song that took off, but not this one. Even my favorite song on the album, Orchestrate, with its grand synthesizers and hard-hitting 808s, only has about 23 million streams on Spotify. And I'm a big proponent of the idea that popularity doesn't equate to quality. But in the rare case of Lyfestyle, I just can't argue for why this album should be more popular. The intro, Geek Time, with its quirky and kind of bare bones electronic synthesizers that for some reason I just can't get it off my head. That track is like the bare minimum I would accept from Yeat. Gone for a Minute is Yeat back to that futuristic sound, just going all in with his vocal inflections. And I think I touched on Orchestrate earlier in this video. I think it's a great song. But that's kind of it for the main highlights of this album. Most of Lyfestyle is just a bunch of this sounds fine on the ears all the way through, but nothing distinct really stood out to me within these tracks, and I just have no motivation to go back to them type of songs that this album has way too many of. And I argue that there's even a couple of bad songs on this album, like the song They Tell Me sounds like a shitty beat Ken Carson would unironically rap over. Forever Again is a really terrible fusion of dance and rage with Yeat's terrible auto-tune over this annoying beat, and Line 5 Fun is my least favorite song on the album. Not only am I not feeling Yeat's weird vocal inflection, but the beat switch in the middle is just a really useless bridge between one bland instrumental with another. Lastly, I think the features on this album just suck. Lil Durk was really the only person who stood out to me on the title track, and that's not even because he overperformed. It's mainly because the rest of these guys underperformed. Summers killed the momentum on Go to Work with that underwhelming performance. Don Toliver and Kodak Black don't even sound like they're mixed properly in their respective tracks, especially Kodak on Be Quiet. I mean, just as the title of this track says, he is way too quiet on that song. So yeah, even almost a year later, I still think Lyfestyle was just super mid, which is why I'm feeling a 4 to a 5 on it. It has some good moments, but it's just not a good album.